Welcome to the WA Podcast, where the goal is to motivate, inspire, and share success principles. I'm your host, George Masri. Welcome back. On this episode, I interviewed Francesco Porretta, who's a licensed real estate agent. He became licensed in 2008. He actively invests in real estate stocks and has renovated apartment buildings, completed property conversions, and many other renovations for over a decade. His goal is to always increase rental returns, and he's recently started investing in Florida with a short-term rental strategy. On this episode, we talked about the beginning of his investment journey in Toronto, why he started exploring opportunities in Hamilton, Ontario, converting his bungalow into a 2-story by ripping the roof off, how he got into the Florida short-term rental market, and how he built his real estate sales team. I know you guys are going to enjoy this episode. Make sure to leave us a review on the Apple Podcast platform. And the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is share this episode to your story, either directly on Spotify by clicking share and sharing it to Instagram stories, or on the Apple Podcast platform by taking a screenshot and sharing it to Instagram that way to your story as well. So there you go. Enjoy the episode. All right. I'm here with Francesco Porretta. Thank you for... I'm good. Thanks for joining. I always start off by asking about your childhood. So
Awesome.
I know you thought that might be one of the things we'd talk about. So tell me about where you grew up and a couple memories.
Yeah, totally. So unlike a lot of people, I actually grew up in downtown Toronto. I grew up at Spadina College. Went to school down there. I didn't leave there until 2014, actually. So I was there for quite a long time. I went to public school, ordinary. I learned a lot about real estate with my father at a young age, and that's kind of what I was. We were always renovating something or doing something. We always had rental properties, so that's kind of my childhood and upbringing.
Cool. What kind of properties was your dad investing in?
So to be honest, I think one of his first projects was a raccoon house in High Park, and it was basically a full gut and reno. There was nothing left of it. Basically went in there, renovated the whole house, actually flipped that one, did really well on that one. And then that started to sprout into something pretty amazing. We did, I think, 2 more houses that were similar to that. And after that, my father went into a 10-plex, which was actually pretty large. It was like a 10,000 square foot building, all 10 units, 8 3-bedroom units.
Wow.
A 1 bedroom and a 1 bath, and 1 bachelor. So quite a bit. And that was a huge project as well. And that needed like a full burr. And was, we still own that property today, actually.
Where is that?
That's literally at Christie and Bloor.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So great location. Always had it rented within an hour. Mm-hmm. You couldn't put your post up on Kijiji, Craigslist, or anything for more than an hour.
Yeah. So when your dad was investing at this time, was this during the early 90s, mid 90s?
Mid 90s, yeah.
So the rate was pretty high at that time, right?
Oh yeah.
What kind of challenges did you guys have or face at those times with the rates?
I don't think any of these, the first 3 properties were flips, so you wouldn't look at them from a cash flow point of view. But once we got into that 10-plex there, that was a property that definitely didn't cash flow. All the rents were $600 a month, $700 a month, way too low. You had rates at the time, and that was in 2003. Rates were, I think, commercial mortgage rate was 6.5%, 7%.
Like today.
It's today.
Yeah.
It's today. It's doing the numbers today.
Yeah.
And those units slowly, one after another, as the tenants left, went in there, did the reno, new kitchens, new bathrooms, nothing extreme though. Mm-hmm. And got all those rents up, kind of created, see, being close to the U of T, those were really 2-bedroom with a huge den. Mm-hmm. You convert that den to a bedroom, you get 3 roommates in at $800 a head, and now we're talking about a unit that used to rent for $900 a month up to now it's $2,400 to $3,000.
Right.
So it's big difference.
When you say convert the den, are you saying you just added a closet or something like that?
Added a closet, partition wall, and there you go. And the den on those units is 10 by 10. So it's still a standard bedroom.
Right.
It's not it's some 8 by 3 or 8 by 9 kind of room or something.
Yeah.
No.
That's cool. So already creative thinking,
Yeah.
like how do we add value, which is one of the key things as an investor. So you probably learned a lot from that. What was your journey like as an investor? When did you start getting into it and buying kind of for yourself?
Yeah. So like, I'll be honest, my father passed away in 2010 and that kind of like slowed us down a little bit, but we actually had to divest a couple of the properties that we had. And then I got into a triplex and a condo. And that would be in like 2011 and 2012. And the condo was at like Bayview and Eglinton. It was a condo that needed everything, but I didn't do much. I just kind of refinished the floors, painted the walls, painted the kitchen. I had to do the bathroom. I didn't have a choice on that. And I updated the lighting. I find a lot of these kind of older buildings, the lighting really sucks. And you just need that bright space. So I just did that, and that was actually a really successful one. And then we bought the triplex, and the triplex was it was at Davenport and Bathurst, and it was a legal triplex. It was built as a triplex with the city, but it had its challenges. It had water issues. It had a bunch of different issues, and that unit there. We went in there and we just basically refaced the whole front of the building because it was just old, dated, 1950s, didn't look good. I'll actually show you some photos after the podcast, but it was actually a project I was pretty proud of, and we got the rents up like really good on that place, and then we ended up selling it. So I've never really owned anything for like a long period of time. I try to see the value in it and try to see where's the next one, where's the next value.
Sure. Did you do that a lot of the work yourself on your buildings, or did you always hire it out?
Yeah, like I've never hired a GST. I've never hired a GC. Like every project I've ever done, it's been in-house GC, me. And, I basically hire the trades if I can't do it myself. A lot of these places I've been, my hands are dirty. I've got calluses on my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? Like just out of curiosity, have you thought about hiring GCs? Is it just the amount that you'd be paying them? It just doesn't sit well with you?
Yeah. Yeah. Like a part of it's like the amount you pay them, but it's also like, it's the little details. I find it's like, I want a timer in the bathroom on the exhaust fan. I want to make it convenient for the tenant to use the exhaust fan. I want, transitions to be perfect. I can't stand when you go in a place and there's like 10 different transitions in a unit. That just drives me nuts.
Yeah, me too.
So there's like little details that I find are often missed. They're not missed if you hire the right contractor, but the right contractor is going to charge you a 30-40% upcharge.
Yeah.
So I can't justify it, especially when you're trying to make numbers meet and you're trying to make cash flow. Cash flow is everything.
Yeah, for sure. So you got this triplex. You've sold it since then.
Yeah.
And then I know when we spoke last week, you had mentioned that you also kind of have some properties in the Golden Horseshoe. How did you end up investing out there?
Well, I'll actually just like reverse you a little bit there. So when I sold those properties, then I started reinvesting in what I would call my own house, and just trying to create a house that, starting a family, we can have. That would house our family and it was going to be good. So we bought a home that was a bungalow. It was a 2-bedroom bungalow, kind of a sprawling bungalow, and we ended up. I tore the whole roof off the house, and I did a second floor addition. Framed it all out, built that as our place to call home. It did a large equity takeout on it. And what I ended up doing was buying in Hamilton. And when I bought in Hamilton, the first property I bought was a mixed-use building. And it was a 3,500 square foot building in East Hamilton, closer to Parkdale and Maine. So where the end of the LRT is going to really sit once they ever get to that project. And the goal of that property was, I just saw value. It was a 3,500 square foot building. We're both agents, and I'll say this, like, The agent had no photos of the interior of the building. Didn't even want to show me the property because he had his own buyer. Mm-hmm. So the minute I saw that, there was no photos. He didn't even want to show it to me. He had his own buyer. He wouldn't give me information. I'm like, I started like just doing a Google satellite view of it. And I'm like, wait a second, this is a big honking building. Mm-hmm. So I said to him, I said, I want to come out there and I want to see it. Oh, well, I can't get you in, this and that. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. I'll let you be my agent. I'll forego my commission. I want the property. I'll sign a buyer rep with you right now. Mm-hmm. So he's like, no, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, I'll sign a buyer rep right now. So I literally signed a buyer rep with him to be my agent.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, you can see it today at 3. Oh, I can see it at 3 now. Okay, perfect. So I was like,
oh, man.
So I was like, okay, I'm driving out there. I'll see you soon. And it was a Wednesday. I'll never forget. So anyways, I went out there and I took a look at this building and he basically said to me, he goes, there's no tenants upstairs. Both units are vacant, the residential units. The commercial unit, the company's been there since 94, but they have no lease. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So like, this is like financing nightmare, right? Like,
yeah.
So
sure.
I made a deal with him and the owner, and I actually pulled, because the owner was there, and I literally pulled him aside and I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what, this is my deal. I'll give you asking, but there's a couple caveats. I want a wicked lease with the main floor tenant, and these are stipulations, and I basically laid them out. I'm like, they're paying 50% of the property taxes, they're paying 50% of the water, they're going to pay, like I said, I want a 5-year lease with an escalator. I structured it all. Mm-hmm. And then I said, on top of that, I want the owner to give me full permission to rent out the upper units prior to closing. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay. I'm like, okay, so write it up. So literally we had the whole thing done by 8:00 at night. And I got it all rented out. It was fully leased before closing, gave everything to an A bank here, got the mortgage. Everything worked out amazing. Like everything you could ask for happened. Mm-hmm. And that property, like at a 70% loan to value, is running like a 1.25 DSCR, which would be like 25% cash flow.
Yeah.
Which
DSCR, debt service coverage ratio, in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah. So at a 70% loan to value, 1.25. So 25% is pure cash flow.
Yeah. So this was a 2-res plus commercial?
2-res plus commercial, but the property allows for up to 6 units. So right now I'm in the preliminary phases of looking at what can be done with the property. My goal with the property would probably be to either go up or to expand the width or to actually create 2 commercial spaces if the commercial tenant ever wants to leave. So I'm kind of right now, I've had the survey done, met with the architect. Right now we're kind of looking at what the city will allow us to do. Mm-hmm. We've had some preliminary conversations with them, and you know what? I'll say this, Hamilton is like the most business friendly when it comes to wanting to like develop and grow, and like they've been so positive about everything with regards to this, so it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Cool. I know you're talking about like modifying buildings and whatnot. You talked about your primary res and how you ripped the roof off. Mm-hmm. Did it make sense looking back? Did it make sense to do all that, or would it have been better for you to just buy a 2-story kind of finished at that point?
So yeah, it definitely made sense, and I don't know necessarily that whether I'd want to take on such a daunting long project again, mm-hmm. but from a financial point of view, it absolutely made sense. So I live on a property right now that is in Kleinburg. It's on the Humber River. So it's OS1 zoning. And what that basically means is it's floodplain. So because it's a floodplain property, it had to be built to flood code. So in 2013, when it was constructed, and when I bought the shell, it was a poured raft slab foundation, which is basically as strong as you can possibly get. No windows on the basement. Lifted out of the ground, so it's like about 1.3 meters above grade. Mm-hmm. And so it can withstand a direct hit by the Humber River. So if I was to say, okay, let me just tear it down and let me just build a brand new 2-story right here, right off the bat, the concrete alone that's in the basement is probably worth $150,000. Wow. So you wouldn't want to just rip it down, just rebuild it. It makes more sense to work with the existing structure. And I was actually able to make something pretty cool where I was doing cathedral ceilings. Basically it's all hand cut, framed.
So
there's no trusses.
It's pitch black in the basement right now, other than the lights that you have?
you can't. Yeah, it's just lighting.
Okay. Do you use the space just out of curiosity?
There's a small rec room, but realistically speaking, not that much.
Right.
But I mean, you have to have it that way just because you're on a floodplain.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love that area that you're in, like that Kleinberg. I know there's. I went to a property that was, I think, on like 4 acres of land. Beautiful house. It's so nice out there. So, anyway, back on track here.
Sure.
All right. So you started off with that mixed use building in Hamilton. Tell me, what did you do after that? Why did you continue investing there? Did you just see like an opportunity to grow in that area? Because, coming from Toronto, you're coming from a big city out to Hamilton's totally different, right?
I can't make the numbers work in Toronto. Like many investors that I talk to, it's almost impossible to make the numbers work.
Yeah.
I don't feel as though buying something for capital appreciation makes any sense. Even though I love capital appreciation, I'm buying for cash flow first. The banks don't finance on capital appreciation. You can't go to the bank and go, oh yeah, but in 5 years it should be worth X, and that's why you should give me the mortgage. No, sorry.
Yeah. Sure.
So, I look at it like Hamilton, the cash flow works. You can still find properties even today. No questions. So the other property that I'm working on now in Hamilton, it's a single family bungalow converted to 3 units. So you'll have a first floor, 2-bedroom, basement, 2-bedroom, and then it's going to have a laneway house. And the laneway house, there's actually quite a few different options with it, but my goal with it is just to do the single story home, just make it a 1-bedroom, first floor kind of 1-bedroom unit. And I actually think I'll hit more than a 1 times BRRRR on it. So for what I've invested, I should be able to do pretty darn well with it.
Yeah. Sorry, you said that was a bungalow?
Yeah.
So you're duplexing the bungalow and then adding an
ADU, an accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. When did you get that place?
So I bought that actually. As a realtor, I'm going to say this. I bought that when I think the bottom of the market was, which was September, October, November. I think that was really the bottom of the market.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing things turn around, so.
Yeah, it's possible. You might be right because we're, I don't know. I think like it's still kind of balanced right now. We're not seeing any crazy rise in prices, but we are definitely seeing more multiple offers.
We're seeing a lot more multiple offers.
Yeah.
I was on one the other night, like 5 offers, and like the other night was like 9. And then last week there was one house that I was interested in, 21 offers. So like I feel like there's a pickup. I mean, maybe the number's not there yet, but the interest is there.
Sure.
Buyers are not as scared as they were 6 months ago.
Yeah, especially with the thought that rates might come down in the near future. And just for clarity, like anyone who's listening right now, it's March 22nd, 2023. This is probably going to air like next month or something like that.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, Hamilton, there's tons of opportunities. You're still able to make the numbers work. So can you just share maybe a little bit about like what you bought the place for, how much you plan on putting into it, and what the strategy is?
Why don't I give you the numbers on the latest project? So there's the single family to a duplex with a ADU. So numbers on that are pretty simple. $440 purchase price. You have, let's just say by the time you've closed on it, it's about $450. You have $150K to duplex it. And then to build the nice thing is because you're already going in the basement and the basement's already ripped up, the drains and services going to the ADU, it's easy to access. This is not like taking a house apart that's already built to get those services to the ADU or the accessory dwelling unit. So it makes it a little easier. The ADU, I've budgeted for this is going to sound really compact and small, but it's a little under 400 square feet, single story, slab on grade, and I'm at about $150,000 my cost to build.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems really good.
Yeah, you know what? It's not as complicated as you think once you have all the services easily accessible. So you're already going in with an excavator. You're digging a trench that's 20 feet long, that's only 4 feet deep. You run your hydro, you run your sewer, you run your water. Your sewer, we already have it now to the back of the building, so it's really easy to get to. The hydro, when we did the hydro, because we're converting the house from single family to duplex, so you already have the hydro meter base. You're doing it all in the same shot. So a lot of the costs are kind of diminished because you're doing it all in one shot. Mm-hmm. And then to build this accessory dwelling unit, realistically speaking, it's like building a garage. There's really nothing different. Unless you're going to do like a basement or a second story, that's when the costs start to escalate. But we're looking at a sloped flat roof on the ADU, and I haven't completed the drawings on it yet. We're just we got the house almost done, and now it's like, okay, let's kind of finalize the drawings for the accessory dwelling unit. But the idea is that it's really just a slab, 4 walls and a roof, 8 linear feet of a kitchen cabinets, and there's not much more to it.
Yeah, are you putting in a ductless mini split in there?
Correct.
Yeah, so just one should be good.
Ductless mini split. I have been running into issues where, like, at least the mechanical engineer that we've spoke to wants us to have the electric heaters as well. So all the rooms, based on Ontario Building Code, are supposed to have this electric heater. It's not the biggest deal because you're already going
a heating source per room. Yeah.
So
yeah.
We're going to put those electric heaters in, but we'll have the ductless mini split.
Mm-hmm.
They're cost effective. They're cheap.
So is this going to be, you may have mentioned it, I probably missed it, but is it going to be a 1-bedroom unit?
1 bedroom.
A 1-bedroom unit, yeah. So you're going to have basically like a small living room, a kitchen, probably combined.
Yeah.
And then the separate room. So you're going to have the ductless mini split in the main living area, and then possibly a baseboard heater most likely in the bedroom, and one in the bathroom.
Yeah. And realistically speaking, there's almost like no mechanical room at all. Literally all you have is a little tank, hot water tank, and that's basically it.
Yeah. You can even go tankless if you want to save space.
Yeah. The only thing is, like, I would want to do it electric because I don't want to get into running a gas line. Mm-hmm. See, this is where, like, I'm trying to, like, cut down the costs as much as I can. Yeah. So the idea would be literally to just run a hydro cable, water, and sewer.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's so important today, especially with the changing market. You're going to be looking for a certain value once it's done, right? Because you want to refi, get your capital out. So at times like this, you got to be conservative. Make sure you keep your costs as low as possible, so that if the ARV doesn't come in after repair value at what you thought, then you're not going to be in it for too much.
No, and even that you just we were talking about burrs and everything like that. You look at it and you say, okay, so $150,000 is what the cost of it is. That unit should rent for $1,700.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So it's great value.
Yeah, it beats the 1% rule, right? That's kind of what the thing that people look at when it comes to adding value to a property. So what do you think the value of the building is going to be when you're done? So you're in it for $750 if we do quick math here.
Yeah.
$450 purchase price plus closing costs, $150K to duplex it, plus $150 for the ADU or additional dwelling unit. That's $750.
So I think you have a value there of about $900,000. I think that value could be a little more, but I think that to be conservative, it would be probably about a $900,000 value. I mean, I think for 3 units, $300,000 a unit, it's a pretty good deal. I think that that's probably the best value, but I don't look at it necessarily from the value after doing the work. I look at more from the cash flow opportunity. Both of the units in the main house are going to be at like $2,200 a month, plus or minus, maybe one's 23, one's 21. And then you have the 17 coming in from the basement. It's pretty good math.
Yeah. And just quickly running the numbers, it looks like if you put in 750, your ARV is 900. That means you're going to be taking out 80% of 900,000, which is 720. Mm-hmm. So you're in it basically for 30K. Like, you're going to have this property.
See the smile on my face right now?
Yeah. fully renovated for 30K.
Correct.
And that's the power of the BRRRR strategy, the buy, renovate, rent, refinance strategy. We're doing something really similar actually right now in Hamilton. We bought a single family home for $275.
Nice.
And we're converting it to a fourplex.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So the
where did you find that in Hamilton?
Wholesaler. Wow. Yeah. So we got a good deal on it. Yeah. So we have very similar numbers. Like we're assuming we're being really conservative and saying our ARV is going to be 850.
Sure.
But yeah, the numbers look good even at 850. Yeah, it's going to be.
Do you have similar rents out of curiosity?
Yeah. We're projecting similar, but we're going to have 2 2-bedroom units, 1 bachelor and 1 1-bedroom.
Okay, so yeah, you're very similar. You just have that bachelor. Yeah.
That extra bachelor, yeah. So, yeah, looking forward to finishing that. It's a bit of a process, like getting the permits and getting all the approvals and all that. But yeah, it's definitely, they are definitely friendly in Hamilton with that kind of stuff.
They are, and I think like the big part of this is the fact that like the numbers still work. You can't find these numbers in Toronto. Mm-hmm. You can't find these numbers in Toronto 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, that's why, I've invested there. I don't know if that's I don't know if I'm going to be investing there in the future, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm finishing these projects right now. And then kind of focusing down south, which I was telling you about the other day. Yeah,
we'll dive into that. But I just wanted to say just out of curiosity, maybe a week ago, I went down to Toronto to check out a building. I think it was a 13 unit. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the exact price, but I think it was like 3.9 million or something like that.
Sure.
So it looked like it was an okay opportunity, but then I went to the building, I saw the rents, everybody's way under. They're paying like 800, 900 for these 2-bedroom units. It just makes absolutely no sense. It definitely doesn't work. So I'm just wondering, like, who's buying this stuff? To me, it seems like foreign investors that want to just park their cash in Canadian real estate, because I don't see how locals would do this unless they just have a ton of cash that's just sitting there.
So I actually have a friend that has been working for a company, and I'm not going to disclose which company it is, but it's a company that is buying these properties and burying them. Mm-hmm. They're buying them and they're using any means necessary to evict the tenant in order to build out these units.
Yeah.
And they are making the numbers work by doing a lot of them. Like the project he's working on right now, I think is like 100 units worth. Mm-hmm. And that's the only way you can make the numbers work.
It's risky though.
It's risky.
So risky.
It's huge money. I don't even know how they can come up with this kind of money, but that's what they're doing.
Good luck getting tenants out. Like, if that's your game plan.
No, like they're one guy is getting bought out. The next guy is getting evicted with, for construction. The next, they're doing whatever they can. They get the units emptied out, brand new windows, all new heating systems, mechanicals, and it's from ground up.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. And even because the rents, like, I don't know what they would go for a 1-bedroom. I'm guessing maybe 2,400 or something like that. So let's say you're going from 700 to 2,400. That's a huge value add in the commercial space. So it might make sense to pay a tenant 25 grand or 30 grand to go.
You know what? It's funny you say that. So one of the last properties I'm fully out of property management, but it was like I had the last property was in December that I still had, that I was managing for a client. We offered 3 tenants that were sharing a 3-bedroom unit $36,000. Mm-hmm. They would not leave.
Yeah.
They told us no.
Sure. I can see that. That's 12 grand a piece.
I literally couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We thought like there's no way they would say no to this.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, it's
that's just like, how do you gain control of your property at that point, right?
That's why I'm saying it's so risky to go in. Maybe they have like a certain strategy. Yeah, you can do the renovations and all that, but I don't know.
They have a lawyer. They have everybody on site.
Yeah.
When you have a team that's that big, maybe it's doable, but even still, it's like.
Yeah, I guess it just depends. Like, how much do you overspend on a building with that strategy?
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line and say, it's too risky?
That's a good question for me, but I mean, like I'm done with it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Florida.
Now we're talking about something like,
Yeah.
I just feel like the sun just came in or something, right?
Tell me, how did you start going out there and looking for opportunities. Tell me about that journey.
Yeah. So my wife Danielle and I, we were COVID, stuck at home, bored. The minute we got our shots and got down there, we got there and there as soon as we could. And we were just like looking for opportunities and like seeing what was down there. And I had a friend that was in Naples, Florida. So I'm like, you know what, let's go see our friend. Let's go see him. Let's see what he's up to. I'd love to see the projects he's working on. He actually was a contractor that used to work for my father when we used to do construction work. Mm-hmm. So like I've known this guy a very long time. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to fly down there, see what he's up to and learn about it down there. So we went down there on our first trip I think it was in August of 2021. And we went down in August, went back in the fall, went back in December, and the whole time looking at real estate. And just trying to see about, finding another place that we can call home as a second residence or even as an investment. And we kind of fell in love with it. As a kid growing up, my mother's family always had places in Florida. And it was mostly the East Coast, but we used to always go up to Clearwater. So we had seen the Gulf as well. But going to Naples, it's kind of like its own little world in Naples. Naples was literally built to be nice. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It was built to be nice subdivisions and nice HOAs and all that kind of stuff. But there is one community that isn't an HOA.
What's an HOA?
HOA is like a homeowners association. So it'd be like a condo here, right?
Right.
So there's only like one community that's a non-HOA that is on the ocean. And that's Naples Park. There is a couple other ones like Park Shore and Moorings and that kind of stuff. But those are, $5 million for a piece of land or something. Mm-hmm. So kind of out of my budget. So we started looking at places in Naples Park. We had a condo that we almost bought that was on the ocean, but that was a story. Literally, we almost bought this condo. The owners did not want to sell it to us because we were a young couple and they had other units in the building. And I think that they didn't want kids in the building. Mm-hmm. So even though there was no like bylaw against kids, yeah. I don't think they wanted our kids that were really loud and screaming in the lobby. Yeah. So they wouldn't sell it to us. But thankfully, we didn't buy it because of Hurricane Ian. Nobody's been allowed in that building since.
Oh, wow.
So it's been condemned or something. So, thankfully, we did not buy that place. Mm. We looked at some other houses in Naples Park. We put some offers in, foreclosure. I tried to buy. Nothing kind of worked. And then finally, I got home from our December trip, and there was only one property that I didn't get to see the interior of, but I was kind of like the location, walking distance to Mercado, which is like a Shops at Don Mills for anybody from Toronto. Yep. Very similar kind of setup. And I was like, this could be a really good buy. So I ended up buying or putting an offer in, and we picked it up. We closed on it in February, went down there in February of 2022, went down there, got it all fixed up. I had to do a lot of work to it. I bought it sight unseen, like literally. But I bought it at land value. So I feel like buying sight unseen is okay if you're buying it at land value, because then I went down there with the idea in February when I drove down. I said to myself, I'm going down. I'm going to decide whether we take the excavator and tear it down, or we just renovate it and enjoy it the way it is.
Was it a foreclosure?
No, it wasn't, but it was like a house that had been rented for numerous years on annual rentals. The AC wasn't working. George, I'll tell you this. I walked into the kitchen the minute I walked into the place, and I'm like, oh, this is what I bought. I went into the kitchen, I grabbed one of the drawers to pull it open. The whole front face of the drawer falls off. That's when you know you bought a good house. Yeah. Yeah. So I ended up going in there, basically fixing everything. Had to rewire a lot of the house, paint the whole house, landscaping, front, back, yards, digging, excavating. Like, it was quite a bit of work. We had to get the roof replaced. That's a whole nother conversation. We decided, okay, well, we're going to rent this thing out. So we got it all set up for Airbnb. And I think like the one thing that was for me was like, I want to be in control. I'm the property owner that goes to his properties here and makes himself present all the time. All the tenants have my phone number. They can call me at any hour. I'm that type of person. I'm not the person that's like, I'm scared and like, oh, I don't own the property, or I think I'm not that person. Right? So, I'm the person that's always there. So I said to myself, I'm going to put up cameras. So I did 360 cameras around the outside of the house. Obviously nothing in the inside of the house, but the point of the matter is so I can actually watch the construction work while it was being done, because I was obviously gone for a lot of the landscaping. I also wanted to know when I had contractors coming and going. We had to do some water lines. We did a bunch of different things. But being able to have cameras and this is 2023, you have all the controls over a house. So the first thing so I put up cameras around the outside of the house, and I basically made the whole house a digital home. There's literally a server rack that controls the whole house. And because of that, I don't have to worry if a tenant leaves and left all the lights on, or, I have all the controls on my phone. Literally,
Right.
There's an app.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, there's even the water line I shut off with my phone. So everything is digital.
Wow. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Shutting off. So you can shut off the water to the entire house from your phone?
Correct.
That's so cool.
So you don't have to worry about floods. You don't have to worry about nothing.
Yeah, you've got like some kind of high-tech
valve.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Wi-Fi valve. It's I think Watts makes it, or Honeywell or something. Yeah.
What does that cost, just out of curiosity, for the valve?
It's like $500.
Yeah, it's probably worth it, though.
Yeah, but it's worth it because what happens if your water line pops in your attic and it's been leaking for a month?
Yeah, who are you going to send?
Oh, that's a big bill.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So tell us a bit about your success with Airbnb. How long have you been operating it as an Airbnb, and whatever you can share?
Yeah, so absolutely. I'll definitely share it with you guys. So I have had a property manager. The first one was an absolute disaster. We were talking before the show about property managers and nightmares. The first one was a disaster. He wasn't telling us that there was people staying in our place. Let's just say the relationship ended in September, and I never got a payment from him until January, after threatening him that we were going to take legal action. So he wouldn't actually give us money.
Yeah.
So you got to really be careful with who you hire. That was a big learning lesson. It was yeah. And this is coming from a person that's been a property manager here in Toronto. I never thought that people could operate stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm sure it happens a lot.
Yeah.
How did you find this property manager?
Well, he's well known in the area. Literally, there was signs for his company all over the neighborhood. And I'm like, okay, so he's got that property. He's got that property. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'm interested in interviewing him. I interviewed him. Oh yeah, no, Mr. Porretta, we'll keep you informed, to keep you in the loop. You can co-host with us, and you can do this and you can do that. The minute it came time, all these promises went right out the window. They went right out the window. Yeah. There was and then I heard stories from one of my neighbors down there that also has quite a few properties, and he was saying to me, he's like, things to watch out for, getting a bill from your property manager that the AC was fixed and there was nobody that ever went to the property to fix the AC. So, this is where you need those control elements, like having cameras and having a knowledge of what's going on your property. Because if you don't, you're going to get taken advantage of, period.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense on a building like that where you live here, you're investing out there. It's a long way out. So how did you find your second property manager? And if you can just kind of share with us some.
So I actually hired her because it was a friend of a friend, basically, down there. So I was kind of you know what, at least I know that I don't think I'm going to get taken advantage of. And that's why I went down that route. And since then it's been good. So that's been since October till now. It's been really good. We've had great rentals. We've been averaging, and I'll share this with you guys, we've been averaging $386 a night, and that's with no reviews. All of a sudden now we got our first review a week ago. And it's funny because a lot of the tenants don't leave reviews, and I think it might actually have a lot to do with the age group. Most of my tenants have been 65 plus.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure whether they go in the app and they do the review after they've stayed at your place. So now we've gotten a review, and based on what comparables are in the area, we'll probably actually hit closer to $500 a night once we have reviews on both sites. Because we only have a review right now on, I think, on Verbo, and I don't think I've figured out a way to transfer it yet. So
Cool. So let's say 386 a night. I think that we were talking last week again, that roughly translates to about 20 grand a month. Is that right?
So 386 a night wouldn't, but the way it would, in the height of the season, you're going to do like 650 a night. When I give you a number of 386, that's based off of AirDNA data, which is based off of like a month like October when you're only getting 200 and something a night, right? So you'll hit $20,000 a month in February or March. But that's like only 1 or 2 months that are going to be like that. And then obviously then you're going to average out. And then the other thing to look at with these data points, and like even if you go on AirDNA, is ADR, which is average days rented. So the average number of days rented of the year, or how many days are available, right? So if you go onto their site and you start looking at like what your neighbors are doing and like how many days they actually rent out, I think conservatively, and like I'm probably going to beat this value this year of 70% average days rented, which would put you like I think 268 days of the year or something. So that's basically the math. 268 days of the year at 386 a night right now, but potential to 500 a night. That's where kind of the math adds up. So you have about $100,000 of gross income right now at a 70% ADR at 386 a night, but then you have about a 20% upside on it still if you stayed at 70% ADR. And then if you, like I know a lot of people in the neighborhood that once they have the reviews in and they've got 20, 30 reviews on Airbnb and they got 20, 30 reviews on Verbo, they're doing like 95% ADR.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So when the potential of this property could be 150,000, 160,000 US.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And this doesn't have a pool.
Right.
This does not have a pool.
Yeah.
So,
but I guess it's the way the property looks, because you put some money into renovating it, probably location, all these things factor in, and then just kind of doing quick math, just 386 a night right now. On a monthly basis, on average, you're probably somewhere like making around 10 grand a month or 9 grand a month, somewhere in that ballpark.
So let me just, I'll give you a little bit more of a narrow number on this. So, and I think I was talking to you, after debt, I'm at 54K a year.
Yeah.
So right now we're set or on target to make 46,000 net after paying the mortgage.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's cash flow.
And that's US dollars.
That's US cash flow.
Yeah.
Oh, and that mortgage was before renos, obviously, was an 80% loan to value with a Canadian bank down in the States.
Right. So how does that work? Can you tell us about that? Like, what was the process of getting a mortgage on a place in Florida?
So I think a lot of the people that we met at that like GTA REI West meetup or whatever, they're buying in the States, qualifying through kind of like B and C lenders. There's a few different companies through Florida that do it for foreign nationals. Now, those loans are no income, no credit qualification. However, the best rates and the best loans are obviously going to be for Canadians with the big five. I think it's actually only the big four, maybe, because I think one of the companies doesn't operate in Florida. So you're going to go with one of the Canadian banks. You're going to qualify on your income here in Canada after your home expenses in Canada. So you have to have enough income qualification to buy in the States. They use the same math that we use here. They're probably using like a 38% total debt service ratio or 40% total debt service ratio. But yeah, so I qualified with a big bank in the US from Canada. And so I just met with them, or I never even met with the lady. I actually just sent her all of our documents for our current home here, our primary residence. And that was basically the gist of it.
Yeah. So do you buy your rentals here in corporations, or are you buying them in your personal name, or where have you been?
I've done both. Everything that I currently have is right now in a corporation here.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But the Canadian banks in the States won't allow you to buy under an LP or any type of corporation in the US. That's the one thing I've also learned. So you have to own it personally. That's one disadvantage maybe in the States.
Is that just because you're a Canadian citizen, I guess?
Well, yeah, they're already doing something that's like kind of not normal. They're giving you a loan. So I'll give you an example. That Canadian mortgage, it's not reported in Canada.
Okay.
So you got it from a Canadian company, but it's not reported here on your Canadian credit score. But it's also not reported on your U.S. credit score.
Okay.
Until you actually do something that I did. But what I'm trying to say is these are unconventional mortgages in theory. Like they're not being reported anywhere. They're based on your Canadian income, which is not like it's foreign income. You wonder actually how they even write these loans or give you these loans, but they do.
Yeah. That is interesting. Like I guess that you signed like a personal guarantee, and
correct.
They'll come after your Canadian assets if you don't pay out there, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like I'm not exactly sure how that would work, but yeah.
Yeah. And then that net income that you're generating from this Airbnb, I think you told me last week that you either report it as Canadian income or U.S. income. They're going to take the higher amount, right? Whichever one you're taxed more on. Is that correct?
Yeah, speak to your accountant, but like my accountant basically told me like this: so like you're gonna file taxes in both countries, but you're only gonna pay taxes in the country in which your tax rate would be the highest.
Yeah, makes sense. Sort of, I guess.
Unfortunately,
yeah. Does this allow you to get citizenship in the U.S.? I don't know if you've looked into that.
Yeah, no. It doesn't. I mean, you realistically speaking, this is passive investing. From my understanding, you can't really get a work visa in the U.S. for passive investing.
Okay.
So realistically speaking, the only way you could possibly do it would be to have maybe start a property management company to manage all your properties in the States, from what I've gathered. Sure. And then that property management company would have to hire Americans.
Right, yeah.
And then you can apply for that E2 visa, I think it is.
Yeah, somebody else on the podcast was talking about that recently. Yeah. They were doing something similar, but with storage units and something else. But anyway, so that's a really cool opportunity. Like you're able to generate. You're kind of diversifying in some ways because you're in different markets. You're still in real estate, but you have short-term rentals. Are you doing any short-term rentals here in Ontario?
No. And I like from my understanding, it's like very difficult to make it work, and there's so much political pressure to go the other way that I think like if you're going to invest in that field, it's like you better have a plan B, C, D. Yeah. Like you really do. Like and they're very friendly to short-term rental in Southwest Florida, generally speaking. So, I mean, yeah. So, like, I was actually talking to a financial planner yesterday, and he was like laughing. He goes, "You're like the most diversified person I know." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Okay, so you're in real estate. You sell real estate. Your wife is in the investment industry because she's an associate investment advisor." And then he's like, "And then you guys own commercial. You guys own residential. You own short-term rental. Yeah. You're in the U.S. and Canada." Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Different kinds of real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. So we touched on your portfolio here. We talked about Florida, and then also maybe just tell us a bit about like how you got started as a realtor, and just really briefly.
Yeah. Sure. Briefly. Yeah. 100%.
Your journey as a realtor. Why did you get into it, and what you've been able to accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. So, journey into real estate. I'll tell you, I was in a co-op out of high school in heating and air conditioning, and I actually really disliked it. I didn't dislike getting my hands dirty, but I disliked that we were working for a company that had contracts to a lot of the grocery stores that you see today in the GTA, and we were doing refrigeration work. And it was, don't fix the thing, just put some duct tape on it and get it running for us tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow. And we never fixed anything. Mm-hmm. Like we literally it was Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid, and it drove me nuts. Yeah. So I left that. I never forget the day I literally quit. I walked out of the place down at like Front Street, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. Like, this is just ridiculous. And I went home, and my dad was in real estate since like the late 80s. And he said to me, he says, just go get your real estate license, go get it done. Maybe you do leasing, maybe you do whatever, just have it in your back pocket. You just quit your job. Like, what are you going to do? Right. So I literally went out, and I think I was the youngest kid at REI at like York University. Mm-hmm. I was at where the tennis courts are there.
Yeah. What year was that?
08.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got the whole thing done in July of 08, and I was licensed. And
you finished all the courses?
Yeah.
In 1 month?
No, like I was done by July 2008. Yeah. I think it was like from like maybe October till like October 2007, maybe to July 2008, something like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So anyways, I got it all done. I remember it was during the winter, and like York University is not friendly in the winter, like, buses and like all the corridors, snow, and anyways, yeah. So I got it done, and I was like, okay, so what am I going to do now? And I got into doing all the leasing and meeting tons of tenants. And we at the time also had another 10-unit building on Davenport, and that was undergoing a full BRRRR that my father was doing. And, so I was getting in there, moving tenants out, buying some tenants out. And back in the day, it was actually easy to buy a tenant out. You give them like a month or two's rent, and they were out. Like,
it was still the same kind of like there's
same rules,
same
rules, but I think it was just a different appetite.
Mm-hmm.
It was like we're going in there, we're renovating the building. You guys are gonna be living through noise, but you know what? Like, I can give you a couple months rent, cover your costs.
Yeah,
and
that's because they can go rent another unit for
same price,
around the same price. Yeah,
correct. So we were moving tenants out really easily. So that whole building was redone. And then, so I was just doing the leasing there. I was doing the leasing at a couple other properties. We had a client that bought like a 25-unit building that was also doing a BRRRR. And so I was doing all the leasing there. And then I started getting into sales. And then my father passed away in 2010, unfortunately. And I basically was full force then into real estate sales. And that was like a big learning curve. And, I've been doing it since.
Yeah. So how old were you when you started selling full time?
So I was actually licensed as a realtor when I was 18 years old.
Right, in 2008.
Yeah, which is like unheard of.
Yeah. That's really young.
Yeah.
Cool. So at 20 years old, you started.
I was ready for selling real estate. Like at 20 years old, I was literally selling real estate, like $1 million homes.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So what have you been able? I know you have a bit of a team now, and you do a lot of business in Toronto.
Yeah.
Do you plan on continuing to sell homes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So like I work with my sister, and it's just the two of us, and we give customers real customer service. We do absolutely everything. A lot of real estate agents say that. A lot of real estate agents have teams. But you know what? The problem with a lot of teams is this. You don't get the agent that you thought you hired. With us, you get the agent that you actually hired. And I think that's where, there's maybe separation within our industry that's starting to occur. Like, you start to see it more and more and more. Like, yeah, you can hire this guy, but he's got 20 people working for him, and you're never ever going to meet with him.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, with certain teams, that's definitely the case.
Yeah. So, so we've been doing that, and we're obviously pretty busy at what we do. So
cool. And so I guess the investing supplements your lifestyle. Like, you're still active as a realtor, you're still selling, but at some point I'm guessing you'll want to, hang up the gloves and just relax and enjoy, right? Is that sort of a part of the game plan, or you don't really see yourself doing that?
So the real estate investing, everything I make in it goes right back into it. And I actually take my real estate income and I actually support the real estate investing. Mm-hmm. So, everything I have is basically going into the real estate investing. And I truly think that that's going to be something pretty large one day. I don't know when that's going to be, but I can say that it's something that I think it's something that would give me an early retirement if I wanted it. Mm-hmm. So, but a lot of people will say, this is a very big addiction, real estate investing.
Yeah.
And once you get into it, it's pretty hard to get yourself out of that spiral.
Mm-hmm.
At least it's a spiral in the right direction most of the time.
For sure. Yeah. It's good. It sounds like you still enjoy selling real estate.
I do.
Which is nice. Yeah. And you've done really well. Like, you've been able to build a pretty nice portfolio. You've ventured into different markets.
Yeah.
You went from Toronto to Hamilton to Florida, and I don't know if you're in other markets as well, but it's cool to see that you've been able to do all that. Is there anything else you feel like we should touch on? Any final messages for anyone listening?
I think this is the most important thing I would say to any real estate investor getting into real estate. One is trust your instincts, but take risk, and know your numbers. Know your numbers. If the deal doesn't make sense on numbers, don't do the deal. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that it has to make sense right off the bat, but if you don't see the upside in it to actually come out with cash flow, don't buy the property.
Yeah.
Don't buy that investment, because if you can't make the cash flow, the banks are going to look at you like who's this guy? Mm-hmm. If you make the cash flow and you show the banks that you're actually a successful business, then you're going to do well.
For sure. Yeah, and it makes sense to go for cash flow. Like you can't run a business with negative cash flow. It just doesn't make sense. Like anyone listening, you have to look at this as a business and not, I can't understand why people would buy condos where they're like putting in $1,000 a month out of their pocket or when I understand you own the asset, but it's just not sound investment advice or whoever's giving that to you. But anyway,
I think you just made the right point, which is if you were buying a business that was a grocery store, you were buying a heating and air conditioning company, and it wasn't going to be a cash flow positive business, would you buy it? No, you wouldn't. Yeah. So why are you treating real estate different?
Right. I guess for some people, they might argue that it's really hard to find a cash flow positive property in their market. They have to go out really far to do it or whatnot, and they just want to own something in their backyard. So maybe in some situations it might make sense for certain people, or if they want to write it off against their income if they're making a lot of money. But for most people, you want cash flow positive properties.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for sharing your story. Do you want to just tell people how they can reach you and what services you're offering today?
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody can reach us, the Porretta Group or Porretta Group. You can just look us up on Instagram. So it's PORRETTA GROUP. And we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. So they can reach us there. And definitely real estate services is kind of where, that's what we do. So
awesome. Thank you again.
Pleasure.
And we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Your support is truly appreciated. And if you can share this with a friend or family member that might benefit from the information, remember, our goal is to motivate and inspire others to take action and to build wealth and to become well off. Enjoy the rest of your day.